fellow artists, and welcome once again to my watercolor channel. I'm Laurel Hart, and I'm glad to be back with you again. In our last video, we just passed 25,000 subscribers, and I can't thank you all enough for your continued support. To begin with today, I want to share a comment from one of my last videos that made me smile. This came from Cheryl SW, who said, "When you first put that wash on, I thought, uh-oh, she's ruined it already. But then with some mysterious alchemy, it all came together." I really like that phrase, mysterious alchemy. And I feel like that is really a good way to describe any painting that we do that ever turns out. Alchemy is defined as a seemingly magical process of transformation, creation, or combination. Earlier this summer, my family and I did what we call a national park blitz, visiting 5 of Utah's famous red rock parks in one weekend. The rules we made up were we had to take a picture of all of us by the entry sign at each national park to prove we were there, and then we had to do a hike in each park before we moved on to the next. It was a grueling goal, but also extremely exhilarating. The unique artwork of these radiant sandstone formations created over time are stunning to behold, and as many times as I've visited, I'm in awe every time I see them. If you've seen the movie Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, then you've seen Arches National Park because it provides the backdrop in the impressive opening scene. In this national park, natural stone arches have been created over eons of time. The most famous arch is Delicate Arch, which is on our license plates in Utah. I think the creation of these stone sculptures could be termed an alchemy. In one of the visitor's guides that we received as we were going through Arches National Park, it talked about the 3 elements that were necessary to create these stone masterpieces. And those elements were sandstone, water, and gravity. The Entrada sandstone is made up of grains of sand that are cemented together with minerals. Rainwater soaks into the porous sandstone easily and then dissolves the calcite bonding the sandstone together. Gravity pulls the sand particle washes into streaks down over the rock, creating a beautiful array of rainbow colors from vivid pinks to oranges to purples. It suddenly dawned on me as I was reading this little article that these are the same scientific elements we work with in watercolor when we paint. Like the sandstone, we have pigment particles in our paint that are bound together using a binder called gum arabic. When the binder is dissolved by adding water to it, these pigment particles are released and allowed to flow over the paper's surface, settling into the texture and the valleys and hills of the texture of the paper. And then if gravity is added when we paint on a slant, the colors flow downward and in what could be termed alchemy, creating a wonderful array of beautiful flowing pigments. The truth is, there really is a science to painting in watercolor. Pigment, water, and gravity. These are the magic tools we have to create our masterpieces on paper. And if we're smart enough to get out of the way and assist these elements and not try to control and interfere with them too much, they will do their own thing, much like the red rock formations have done over ages. There's always a surprise element in these paintings that are created this way that can't be duplicated each time. One of the headings in this little guide that I showed you said, "Let the water do its thing." And that is a rule that we need to respect in watercolor as well. But there is one happy difference between us as artists and Mother Nature as an artist. And that is that it doesn't have to take us millions of years to create our masterpieces. If we practice faithfully, we'll get the feel of what these elements do and learn how to assist them in a relatively short time. So I'm going to get to painting now. For my subject today, I thought it would be fitting to paint one of the source photos that I took on this trip. This is a photo of Capitol Reef, which is one of the lesser known national parks in Utah. And the reason I chose it is that not only does it have these beautiful red rock colors, but it also has a lot of greenery because it's got a river that runs right through it. And so it sets up this beautiful complementary vibration of those two colors, the red rock and the greenery. And it just really vibrates, so it's really beautiful. So I'm going to get started, and if you'll notice, one thing that is a little bit different today, as you can see, is at this point I usually say I have my drawing on here, and I don't today. Some of you have asked me if I would demonstrate doing one of the drawings, so I'm going to do that today, and I thought this one would be a good one to do that on because it's pretty abstract in that I don't have to make these rocks exactly how they are or the trees to look exactly as they're formed, and it will can still look correct. So I'm going to start by putting in this little area of the light, that little band of light right here, where I want to make sure and preserve that beautiful light strip. And then I'm going to get this little mountainous thing in here. Something like that. And then this thing is coming down here to where all that slag has broken off down here into the base below the mountain. And I neglected to say I'm using a 6B pencil. The reason I like it is that it doesn't dig into the paper like a harder lead does, and I find that it erases better even though it's a darker lead. So then over here I'm going to have this little tree shape thing, and then down into here will be this little band of trees coming through here. And you can barely see, but there are some of my family members down under here. And I really like putting in these little figures because they show the scale of how magnificently large this mountain is behind them. And even though they're just these little tiny, almost little blobs, if I can keep that really beautiful little light edge that's on each of these figures, then you'll really be able to read that they are figures. And then I want this little path that you can see here kind of leading in to the painting. And I've got a little figure here that's going to be coming forward, walking along here. I'm going to make it a little bit larger so that you can tell it's in front of these others coming toward us. And there's one more figure back behind it, behind that one too. Right in there, something like that. These three look a little too even here, so I think I'll put, I don't know, move that one over a little bit. Okay, and I've got a new, well, first of all, let me get this. I do want to get these kind of light areas in where I'm going to skip over those whites as I come in with this wash. So I want to get those on there. There's the second one here with these little pieces of light over here. And that's going to be pretty much in shadow over here with this other beautiful rock face right in the sunlight here. Coming up there, and one more over in here. So, and then down in here will be all of that little rock that has slid off the mountain face. And so that is about as detailed as I go in these drawings pretty much. This one was pretty quick because like I said, I didn't have to do a building or something that has to be really accurate. Okay, so I am going to get painting here. One of the things I wanted to show you today too is I've added a new pigment to my palette for today, and I'm really starting to like this, so I may keep it on my palette. It's called Green Gold, and it's pretty much the color of these areas of leaves in the sunlight here. So it really does make a beautiful image of a leafy area in the sun. And I've actually done a dumb thing. I put it over this. It's either my lemon yellow or Ariel, and I'm not sure which yellow that is, but I added in there because I didn't have an empty spot. But I think it's going to be okay today. So starting out, I'm going to pick up my my brushes here. I've got my whole set of my usual low Cornell brushes, ranging from a size 14 down to a 2. That's the 2 right there. You can see my poor little 12 has had a lot of use. I need to replace that one. And my favorite size especially for a painting of this size, is my number 8 brush. And I'm gonna start out, actually I think I will start out using a 10 just to get a little bit bigger wash on here. I'm gonna begin with, first of all though, wetting down the area for the sky and coming even into the rock a little bit, except where that white is. And I'm going to use just pure ultramarine blue here, not an extremely dark value because I think that sky needs to stay a little bit light. And I'm going to just come in. I want to leave a little little indication of clouds here, so it looks kind of pretty. And one maybe over in here. So that, in a sky this small, is about all I need to do to let you know that's a sky back there. And I may want to put a little bit more down into here too, where the that tree is going to come in. Now for this fun part, I'm really looking forward to this exciting alchemy of these colors, starting from the top of this mountain and bleeding down, where the water and the gravity are going to release those pigments and let them just flow on their own in a natural way. So I can see all kinds of colors in there. I'm going to start with the really nice pink. I think that's quinacridone red. Then I do want orange in there. And maybe a little bit of that's cadmium red light, and it is really vivid. But anyway, and then also some cadmium yellow medium. So I'm going to start, this is on dry paper, and I'm going to just start putting in these colors. And they're going to start really, really bright, as you can see here. And with the water, I didn't want that to spread so much, so I'm going to take a little bit of that out. With the water, I can soften it down somewhat. And I do want a little bit of purple in there too. That's I think that's a Windsor violet that I've got here. And I'm going to carry that right down into all of this place where the rock is coming down. And you can see I'm just letting these colors melt and bleed into themselves on this mountain back here, and I'm keeping the color very very pure and pretty clean here. Okay, that's that other little area of white that I want to leave there. Okay, and here as well. The tree's going to mostly cover this over here, but I want to, I do want to get it in there. And I've left myself a natural stopping point here where these trees have their leaves in the sun there. So that's gonna give me a natural breaking point. And that's why I'm stopping the wash right there. I've got a blossom kind of happening here, but that won't matter. I'm going to come back on that and so I'm just continuing down here. Leaving this big area that's in the sun here. I'll come back and add into that a few details later on here, but right now, just getting these big shapes in. And it's kind of across like that. Okay. So that is, that's what I'm talking about. When you let this water and gravity do their job here, they can just create the most beautiful, beautiful color combinations on their own. I'm going to let this kind of continue drying here. And while it is, I'm going to try, this is the green gold color I'm telling you about that's really nice for these sunlit foliage areas. And I'll take that just right down over the whole tree area because I'll come back over it with a darker value of green. I'm painting carefully around these little figures here so that I won't undo their little whites that I want to make sure and save. And I should have waited till that other paint was dry, but I'm going to try to blot that a little bit back. So I think it will look okay. And when you do blot this color, it really does leave that yummy sensation of the foliage being in that light. And then I can probably just pull that down too into this foreground area, and I will come back over it with another green so that I can let a little bit of that really beautiful color peek through if I want to. Before I blow this dry, I'm going to add in a little bit of these other textures that I can see here that are kind of a brownish. Okay, let me just grab the dryer and we'll give that a quick dry here. So this is my first wash. I've got just kind of a mingling of color on there, but wow, I really like the look of those rock cliffs where they've got that just that melted color. Look at all this in through here, how pretty that is. And I'm going to start working on them, back on them a little bit with just more of those tones in just a little bit darker values to give them a little more detail and to set this color back just a little. And I also am going to bring in some, I think, some burnt sienna now, because that is definitely a color that is in this rock, I can see. And if I skip over some of the areas like that and let that pure color just show through underneath, see how that creates the illusion that there's those cracks and all of that stuff in the rock that there is. And you can see now how I've how this next layer is toning down that color quite a bit and making it a little more, I don't know, a little more believable or a little more natural looking. I don't just want a straight line there, so I'll pull some of that down in here. There's these kind of parallel bands of different colors of sediment and rock and stuff there that only nature knows how to do so well. And painting behind these leaves, I can give them a little more lacy look, I guess you'd say. I don't want to cover everything up. I want to leave some of this. Like just a little bit of that really pretty pink peeking through. And these are just all different different planes of the rock that are turned into the light or out of the light, and it's just really fun to play with that. going to keep this side a little bit warmer where and this is a little darker shade down in here, so I do want to kind of emphasize that. And I like how the water is spreading that pigment, those pigment particles back up the mountain. Again, there's a little more purple in this sort of little wedgy area. Not that dark, but this is kind of a little important band of shadow right through there to keep the eye from going right off in that white space. If I darken some of these little areas of the rock behind that foliage, that really brings the foliage forward. I'll do a little bit of detail work on these crack areas so they look more like the rock. The trick will be that I don't want to overdo this detail work, and that's easy to have happen, but it's nice to kind of have some shadows in here that show that these ledges are jutting out from the rock, and that there's some rock coming forward and some going back, just giving it a little more dimension is what it's doing. But I don't want it to stand out too much against the other. You can see if you keep these layers really translucent, you can keep layering on this without the worry of getting into mud if you don't go too strong on the paint. And there's still kind of a ledgy thing over there that's coming over into that rocky thing. And because this part of the cliff is probably the closest to us, I would say that it should have the darkest details in it since it's closer up to us. And then as you work these layers on there, you can really see that that light start to pop on the sandstone. And right in there, I want to make a good difference between these two rock faces, that one is in the back of this one. And I think that did it. I'll probably come just a little more with a little bit stronger purple, again in that shadow area. Okay, I'm gonna leave this now because if I keep going, I'm gonna maybe overdo those cliffs, and I want to see what they're going to look like with more of this darker green in front of them, if they've got enough of a value on them to read correctly. Again, right here, I want this ledge to pop out more. Okay, so I'm going to come down more into the middle ground, foreground area. And the thing I want to be careful about now is not to lose these beautiful, beautiful colors that are in the sunlight. So I think I'm going to wet this area of the trees, being careful not to wet my figures so the water won't go over them. And for the green that I want to do there, it's looking like I need to quickly clean my palette here. For the green that I'm going to mix up, I'll use sap green, probably a little of ultramarine blue mixed in there, and some burnt sienna to give it a little bit of redness and knock it back a little bit. That's the sap green and the ultramarine blue. And where's my burnt sienna? Right there. That's either burnt sienna or transparent oxide red, and I don't like how dead that color is, so I'm gonna start over here. Try my indanthrine blue. Yeah, see how much cleaner of a blue that is? Even when I put the transparent oxide red in it. Okay, so now if I've got, I've still got these wet. My sun is coming from the left, so I'm going to, most of the shadow area on the trees will be on the right side. That paper didn't stay quite as wet as I wanted it to for this, but I think we're okay. I don't know what in the world that is there, but I'm going over it. Right around in here is quite a bit of that that light left on a bush or something, so I'll leave that. Over in here it's a little bit darker, so this tree's not showing so much of that really pretty side light on it. I don't know if that's another person over there or what I've got there, but it could be a person. I want a little bit more of my rock color down in here. I've just some little touches of it showing through there. Okay. And then I'll pull down some of the trunks of these trees and some of this branchy stuff in the back. Being really careful to leave that really pretty band of light that's right down through here. I don't want to give that away. It's kind of a fight sometimes to make yourself remember some of these things, to leave the whites and all of that. And then back behind here is kind of a, I can see like a really dark another dark band of vegetation or something back there, so I'm going to kind of put that in here and there. Okay, and some little bit of purpley color right in through here that I don't want to, overdo it, but it just doesn't want to be that whole thing in the band of light, and I think that's kind of helped. Okay. So that's maybe some sort of vegetation or other. And then this is going to be a little weird because I just can see a lot of purple in there, and I want that to tie back into the mountain a little bit, that color. And it won't hurt to leave a little bit of that underwash showing through in a few places. Just trying to soften a little bit of those edges on the trees. Okay, connect those tree trunks there. I think that little light needs to be there. Okay, let's get our that is maybe not needing to be there, I don't know. I want to put this forward figure in kind of a nice bright color. I'm going to put it in a red shirt. And I've got that little halo of light around it. That's looking good. And probably just wearing some jeans, I suppose. I don't know. But that's really all that's necessary for the figure there, okay? It's just that. The other one, let's put in a bright turquoise shirt, which is kind of what he's got on anyway. And maybe some brown pants or something. Maybe he's actually got shorts on so he could have some legs here. And I'm gonna, even though they're not really in sunlight in the reference photo, I'm gonna put them in some sunlight over here. And give them a little bit of shadow so that they're kind of anchored down a little bit. And back in here. So let's just get the something on these figures back here too. Another red shirt. And maybe that figure's got white shorts on. This one. Bright orange. So I'm just trying to kind of create some bright colors back here. So those little figures stand out. I still think that I need a little bit more of a dark right back in here. That's kind of, yeah, I think it does need that, another little layer of dimension back there. I'm just trying to not have it have too hard of a line on it. Okay, this is, I don't know, some kind of a trunk with light on it, I guess. That's what we'll make it into. And then to further emphasize the leaves in the light, I'm going to do just a little more work on these rocks back here. And over in here, there's this kind of a ledge here with then I have this fun tree there to put in that I am going to do in a little bit darker foliage. And I'm going to do this right over my rock. And so that the mountain is showing through behind, but I want to leave plenty of breathing holes in that space so I don't choke it out. And that's actually a closer up tree. When you do foliage like that, it's usually you want to leave the detail around the edge of the shape, and then the interior you can keep pretty smooth or quiet. And then I've got a little rigger that is a brush with just a tiny, very long hairs on it, and it's very thin. It's fun to work with for putting in branch work. But it's, again, something that can get overused, so you kind of have to be a little sparing with it. But it can really add the impression of closer up branches and all of that. And then down in here, I could do a little bit in these trees too. Just make them look a little bit like they've got branches in them. But I believe I'm about done there. There could maybe be a little more work going into those rocks. But I really think that the water and gravity pretty much did their thing on them. And I don't really need to improve on maybe what they've already accomplished. I want to just leave with a quote that is by an artist I've told you about before, Hazel Sohn. She says at the end of this book, The Essence of Watercolor, which I think is really an appropriate statement for this lesson. Watercolor may be an art, but what is happening on the paper is science. If you can harness the properties of this wonderful medium and then give them plenty of freedom, you will master the art. I love that, and I really do think that that is the truth. We can create alchemy in our paintings if we harness those three major elements that we use as watercolorists: the pigment, the water, and painting on a slant where the gravity can help create those beautiful pigments. Thanks for joining me this time, and I will see you in the next video segment. Thank you.